The Man Who Mistook His Wife for a Hat is a collection of case studies written by the renowned neurologist Oliver Sacks. First published in 1985, the book examines various neurological disorders, exploring their impact on patients' perceptions, cognition, and daily lives. Sacks offers a compassionate and insightful narrative of his patients, revealing not only the medical complexities of their conditions, but also the emotional and psychological dimensions. The stories explore how the brain can distort reality and how these distortions affect personal identity, relationships, and the way people interact with the world around them. Introduction to Oliver Sacks and the book's themes. Oliver Sacks, 1933 to 2015, was a British neurologist and author who is best known for his works that blend medicine with humanism. His approach to neurology was deeply humanistic. He sought to understand his patients as individuals rather than merely as subjects of medical research. In The Man Who Mistook His Wife for a Hat, Sacks challenges the traditional medical perspective of treating patients through symptoms alone and provides a more profound understanding of the individuals behind the diagnoses. This book is a compelling exploration of the human mind, revealing both its fragility and resilience. The case studies in the book cover a wide range of neurological conditions, including agnosia, Tourette's syndrome, amnesia, and autism. The title story, for instance, describes a patient named Dr. P, a music teacher who suffers from visual agnosia, a condition that impairs his ability to recognize objects and faces. One of the most striking examples is when Dr. P mistakes his wife for a hat, an incident that illustrates the profound disconnect between perception and reality caused by his brain disorder. Through this case and others, Sacks delves into the nature of consciousness, identity, and how the brain shapes our understanding of ourselves and the world. Agnosia, the Man Who Mistook His Wife for a Hat. In the opening story of the book, Dr. P experiences a type of agnosia, a neurological disorder that makes it impossible to recognize objects or people, despite having intact sensory abilities. For Dr. P, the inability to visually recognize his wife is not just an inconvenience, it leads to moments of confusion, such as the incident where he mistakes her for a hat. When Sacks first encounters Dr. P, he is puzzled by his patient's inability to identify common objects, such as a lamp or a coat. However, Dr. P can identify objects by their function, such as knowing a lamp is for lighting or a coat is for warmth. This story reveals the complexity of the brain's functions and how intricate the process of recognition is. Dr. P. Cis-visual agnosia shows that perception is not just a passive process, but an active one, requiring the brain to integrate sensory information with memory and meaning. His condition underscores the importance of the brain's interpretive power, which normally allows us to make sense of the world effortlessly. Without this interpretive function, the world becomes a disorienting, fragmented place, as Dr. P experiences. The case of the lost mariner, amnesia, and identity. Another powerful case in the book is the story of Jimmy G, a man suffering from Korsakoff's syndrome, a form of amnesia often linked to chronic alcohol abuse. Jimmy has no short-term memory and lives in a perpetual present, unable to remember anything that happened more than a few minutes ago. His case highlights the critical role that memory plays in the formation of personal identity. Jimmy believes that he is still in his 30s, and he is unaware that decades have passed. This lack of temporal continuity is deeply unsettling, as it makes him feel as though he is stuck in an eternal present. His sense of self is fragmented, and Sacks reflects on how memory loss can impact one's ability to navigate the world and form meaningful connections. Jimmy's condition raises important philosophical questions about the nature of identity. If we are unable to remember who we are, do we cease to be the same person over time? Sacks suggests that identity is not fixed, but rather a fluid construct shaped by memory, experience, and interaction with others. The role of the brain in perception. Throughout The Man Who Mistook His Wife for a Hat, Sacks emphasizes the brain's central role in shaping our perceptions of the world. One striking case is that of a man named Mr. V, who suffers from visual processing issues that cause him to experience distorted, fragmented images. In his case, he perceives objects as jumbled, making it difficult to see the world as a coherent whole. This condition challenges the idea that perception is a simple process of receiving and interpreting sensory information. Instead, Sachs shows that the brain actively constructs our reality, and when this process goes awry, it can lead to strange and disorienting experiences. The neurological disorders described in the book often result in patients being unable to make sense of their surroundings or their own bodies. In some cases, the brain's failure to integrate information causes people to experience their own limbs as foreign or disembodied. In the case of the man who mistook his wife for a hat, Dr. P cannot recognize his wife despite her being right in front of him and instead sees her as an object, like a hat. This story demonstrates how perception is not a passive process of receiving information, but an active construction by the brain that integrates past experiences, knowledge, and sensory input. When this construction process is disrupted, patients can experience profound distortions of reality. The emotional and social impact of neurological disorders. Sachs is deeply attuned to the emotional and social effects of neurological conditions. He writes with great empathy, and his case studies illustrate the profound challenges that patients face as they navigate their altered worlds. In many instances, patients feel alienated from themselves and others as they struggle to make sense of their perceptions or find meaning in their lives. For example, in the case of the man who mistook his wife for a hat, Dr. P's condition places a strain on his marriage and his interactions with others. His inability to recognize his wife creates a deep emotional distance between them, despite the fact that they share a long history together. Similarly, in the case of Jimmy G, his memory loss prevents him from forming lasting relationships or experiencing the continuity of self that most people take for granted. Sachs's exploration of these emotional and social challenges highlights the importance of empathy and understanding when dealing with patients who have neurological disorders. His patients are not simply medical cases. They are individuals with their own emotions, personalities, and experiences. Sachs' approach is both scientific and humane, and this dual perspective makes The Man Who Mistook His Wife for a Hat such a compelling and insightful book. The limits of medical science. While Sachs is a trained neurologist, The Man Who Mistook His Wife for a Hat also reflects his recognition of the limitations of medical science. The cases in the book demonstrate that even advanced neurology cannot always offer clear answers or solutions. In many instances, the conditions described in the book are either incurable or poorly understood, and the patients are left to cope with their altered states of consciousness and perception. However, Sachs never presents these patients as tragic figures. Rather, he shows how they adapt to their circumstances, finding new ways to navigate the world and maintain a sense of dignity. In this sense, the book offers a nuanced perspective on the relationship between science and the human experience. While medical science may provide valuable insights into the workings of the brain, it cannot fully capture the complexity and richness of the human condition. Sachs, with his blend of clinical expertise and deep empathy, shows how medicine can be a tool for understanding, but not necessarily for solving, the mysteries of the mind. The Man Who Mistook His Wife for a Hat is a thought-provoking and deeply human exploration of the mind, perception, and identity. Through a series of case studies, Oliver Sacks illuminates the complexities of the brain and the ways in which neurological disorders can radically alter a person's experience of the world. While the book offers insights into medical conditions and their effects on cognition and behavior, it is also a meditation on the nature of human consciousness and the limits of science in understanding the full range of human experience. Sacks's writing is characterized by a deep compassion for his patients, as well as a keen understanding of the profound impact that neurological disorders can have on a person's sense of self. By blending scientific knowledge with a deep sense of humanity, The Man Who Mistook His Wife for a Hat remains an enduring work in the field of medical writing and continues to captivate readers with its poignant and insightful portrayal of the complexities of the human brain.